this is a non-complete list, but we'll go into these different forms of discernment, and there's going to be different ways that you can make decisions for yourself. So some of these will really resonate, some might, some you may not have heard of. And these come from different places. Some come from neurolinguistic programming, some come from my coaching training, some come from what I learned in my psychic school, and then some come from what I've accumulated over time. So we'll just go through this. Forms of discerning. It can be something as simple as muscle testing, using an instrument like a pendulum, or giving yourself a yes/no reading, or having a scale out to see how much is this for you, how much is this not for you, to make an informed decision of, is this a person to befriend? Is this a path for you to go down? So we'll go into that in just a sec. Number 2 is creating a pro-cons table. What happens best case, worst case scenario if you make this decision? What happens best case, worst case scenario if you do not? So this is more of a cover your ass kind of situational thing, but it can be very helpful just to understand how grave or how impactful is this decision really going to be. Because sometimes you might be stressing over something where you realize, oh, it's actually not that big of a deal either way. And I will say, regardless of what decision you make, you will be able to survive it. You've survived worse in the past, but it is nice to be able to be more informed as you're going through things. Now, the as if frame is when you step into the decision as though it's already been made, or you step so far that this decision point in your life isn't that big deal, and you recognize what wisdom are you receiving for yourself now that might help inform what you want to do next. You might also step into a future version of yourself that has that thing that you want and get wisdom from them. Is this a decision that's meaningful or not meaningful in having things happen the way they do? Is this relationship, is this choice, is this whatever it might be, meaningful or not meaningful for you? Again, discernment is more than just decision making, but it's simple enough to kind of put it down and put it to the point of making a decision that I'm defining it as that. But the as if frame can be very helpful. This is also a strategy that people use for when in neurolinguistic programming they studied people who were naturally slender. Why was this? Turns out they had a different strategy they used to assess what food to eat than people who were overweight. And the strategy that the people who were naturally slender used is they would take a look at the menu, see if anything stood out to them. Of the options they had, they would then imagine as if they'd already eaten the food, how would their body feel? How would they feel with each of the items? And then they would make a choice based on that. And of course, they're doing a little bit of guessing here. They're using a little bit of imagination, but that helped them decide. So we'll move into that. And then interestingly, the heavy set people, they didn't step into the future. They stepped into, the very near future of what seems like it'll most satisfy their craving and taste good in the moment versus how will they feel later on. So again, these are just different ways of possibly considering discernment. Now, deja vu is something that I've noticed very commonly. I'll have a situation come up, I'll come across a certain type of person, a certain type of healing modality, a certain event in my life where energetically it feels the same as before. And if you're less familiar with the world of energetics, what this means is just the entire experience has a lot of resonance, has a lot of familiarity in some way. So I might feel the same way internally as I did in a prior time. I might meet somebody that reminds me of another person. And oftentimes they will have similar qualities to that other person. Now, I do have to stay in observer mode to recognize what is valid and what is me projecting an opinion, but I can do this very usefully when I start recognizing patterns. And so all this discernment, it becomes stronger and stronger with time, but you can start recognizing patterns. You'll get a strong pattern from a person if you've been with difficult, challenging, narcissistic people before, where you say something about them reminds me of that person. Now, you can continue to observe them and recognize what is accurate or not accurate about your prediction of them. Perhaps they remind you of the person who is a narcissist because the narcissist like golf and this person does. Rarely is that going to be the case. It's more likely that they have certain qualities or behaviors that match that narcissistic person, and your entire system has learned to spot this now. And you might even notice that it's not so much the person, but the way you respond to them. And you're thinking, why am I responding this way to somebody? Why do I feel off in some way? Well, your deja vu is kicking in. Just check in with when was the last time that that happened to you, and then you can use that to begin forming a decision of who to interact with, who to spend more time with, and all that. And then and then the last one is what's your energy and what's other energy. So in my psychic school, we would essentially have two hands in front of us. One hand we'd intend some of our energy moved into. The other hand, we would intend another person's energy move into. And we would notice what was different. What made energy really feel like our own, and then what made energy not feel like our own? What were those differences? Because as we get more used to differentiation, well, that goes right into discernment. And then you can start saying, just like somebody might say a steak needs more salt or pepper, or this food needs to be cooked longer, whatever it might be, you can start having that type of thinking with discerning. Oh, this person, they're not in alignment with who they are. Oh, this person is more material in nature. This person has consumed a lot of plant medicine in their lifetime. This person is strung out on caffeine or alcohol or under the influence. You can actually start noticing these things as you recognize and differentiate different energies. So I'll walk us through each of these things really quickly, but I wanted to give a quick overview so that way you can start making it your own. And then at the final piece, we'll go into cover your ass. Because once you know that you can be out of situations, even if you put yourself in something that's a little challenging, again, I do take observer role in situations where I'm pretty sure there's something that's off, but I know that there's still learning that can be made, or I'm trying to evaluate if this is somebody I would like to share and have platformed or share more of what they do, given what I think karmically is good about them or might be challenging. So I can even sign up for a class with them. I can sign up for a healing session with them, and I can set my own intentions that I don't take on the bad stuff, but I can still get some useful lessons or information out of it. So we're going to go into that too. Again, you can even be consuming or attending my events. You may not even like me. I think it would be hard for you to come consistently if you didn't like me, but maybe you like the event overall. And you could even say, I'm not going to tune into those things Chris is saying. I'm not going to tune into his projections of what I should do, but I'm going to take away the other good stuff. And that can work for you. It can be very valid. So this is where we'll leave it for now.